Well, so it goes hand in hand with moving to a more agile method,
Yep.
and I'd say
Mm-hmm.
more agile because there's a lot written about agile. We could do
Yep. Yep.
hours and hours just on that. The reality is there's a lot less written about agile in a world where you have a vendor-client relationship.
Okay.
And so the so we needed to do a version of agile that allowed us to do the great things about it, to deliver value more, and that was really the drive, was that, you know, as the projects we were winning were getting bigger, we needed to make better deliveries. We couldn't solve all of the problems up front without, you know, better buy-in from the clients. And the nature of that was delivering things in a more agile fashion, which necessitated having cross-functional teams all working together to solve that problem. Basically to try and end that really race of we couldn't do all the designs up front and then do all the requirements up front and then do all the development and say we'll see you in 6 months. You know, we had to break those down into sort of virtuous cycles. So some of those are agile roles. I mean, as much as traditional is the right word to use for something relatively new. So we have a product owner in the team, and the product owner for us often straddles that role of half BA, half translator. You know, they're the person who's responsible for the vision of the product, but obviously that's within the confines of we have clients. So it's often a job about translating that vision to go from pushing past the wants of a client into the needs of a client, and then into the users, and sort of understanding things from first principles, and translating those requirements from multiple parties and balancing those to eventually turn them into user stories. So that's where our sort of product owners live. They're sort of much more than just people who create things in a backlog. In the same way, in the same vein, our designers do more than just kind of have, you know, the pretty pictures element of it. Because the things that we have to do, we're very aware of how easy it is to create technical debt. There's a big push at the moment for user-centered design, and that's absolutely right, because it's massively important. But there are ways where you can end up making things 1% better for the user, but 9 times, 10 times harder to build. And so our designers are very well versed in the patterns and frameworks that will make things more easily implementable, which is why they are also often responsible for building out what our information architecture, how the what of what we're going to do and how it all fits together, so that there's a seamless chain of events and then that lets them really understand the user experience, because they've not just looked at their little slice of it. They understand the ramifications of what's going in and what's coming out. But that's, you know, still relatively traditional, and in the same way that we have engineers, but we have 2 types of engineers essentially. We have software engineers, and they might be mobile or web or front end or back end or full stack or any of one of those specialities. But our other part of the engineering is the QA. They are part of that engineering team. And I think that's often a misunderstood role. I think people's view of QA tends to come from the games industry, frankly, where it's about, you know, running a character into a wall 10,000 times to see if and the sort of, and that's not all they do in gaming either, but I think that's the sort of public perception of QA.
The Grand Theft Auto character kind of stumbling along.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like that type of the thing. You can jump 100 times, you know, up onto this box and see if you click through it. Thing. The reason our QAs are QA engineers is that yes, they do you know, regression testing, and they work through it as a user, and they make sure that it does what it's meant to do. But they're also responsible for developing tests and coming into discovery sessions, sprint sessions, and talking about making suggestions that make a better quality product. So it's quality, but as is the theme of most of the things I'm saying here, is the thing that makes them a team is that they're responsible for what happens before and after it enters their main area of expertise. That's also true of the engineers that we do. Yes, they are writing lines of code, but between pull requests and just also being involved in looking at design crits and requirements building and acceptance criteria creation, they're responsible for more banging out lines of code. And the clients, it's not just the size of them. It's not just dealing with an SME versus a big enterprise company. Also dealing with people who tend to fall into one of three categories. They're either a technical person, so are interested in engineering, or they product person and they're interested in that sort of product and user testing, or they're a business person who's interested in the end results. And each of them all require something different. And then layered on top of that is the context of they work for, the way I talk about it is that when you have a client, each person is really three people. There's them with their own individual success need. There's them as a representative of and the people that they work with, and then they also represent that sort of abstract concept of the business that they're in as well, and that, so all of that basically means that you can do two projects for the exact same company, but deliver it in slightly different ways to make it work.